Ever get the urge to, like, just step back in time?
Yeah.
Wander around a different world?
I can see where you're going with this.
Well, today we're doing the next best thing. We're diving into a painting that's practically a portal to 19th century Barcelona.
Ooh, I like that. A portal. Very dramatic. Which painting are we talking about?
This one's by Joan Ferrer Miró, and it's called L'Exposició Pública d'un Quadre, or Public Display of a Painting if you don't speak Catalan.
Catchy.
Right. But seriously, this painting, it's insanely detailed. Like, you can practically hear the street noises and feel the cobblestones under your feet.
Okay, you've got my attention. So, what's the big deal about this particular painting? There are tons of street scenes from that era.
True. But this one's special for a couple of reasons. First off, it's not just some random snapshot of life.
It's not.
Nope. Ferrer Miró actually dreamed up this whole scene. We're not looking at a real shop or a real crowd.
Wait, so he made this whole thing up? Why would he do that?
That's the beauty of it. By creating this imaginary world, he had the freedom to really play with ideas, to make some pretty pointed observations about art and society in his time.
Oh, I see. So, like, he's using this made-up scene to tell us something real.
Exactly. And remember, this is 1888, the same year this very painting snagged the gold medal at the Barcelona Universal Exposition. Talk about a claim to fame.
So he was already making waves with this style.
Big time. But let's actually jump into the scene itself. I want you to imagine yourself there, right in the thick of it. What's the first thing you notice?
Okay, I'm picturing it. All right, it's got to be the crowd, right? They're clustered around this shop window, totally captivated by something inside.
Exactly. And check out how they're dressed. It's mostly well-to-do men, right? Like, you've got your top hats, your walking sticks, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, it's definitely a pretty posh-looking bunch. Though there is that one woman with, like, a lace parasol.
Yep, but she's with her husband. Can't have a lady wandering around unescorted now, can we? At least not in 1888 Barcelona.
Right, social conventions and all that.
Exactly. But it's interesting, right? Because this whole scene, the well-dressed crowd, the fancy shop window, it tells us a lot about who art was really for back then.
Yeah, it's definitely giving exclusive club vibes. Art as a status symbol, something for the elite to appreciate.
Totally. Though there are a few figures who don't quite fit the mold. Like, you've got that young guy with the portfolio, clearly an aspiring artist himself.
Yeah.
And then a couple more working class folks kind of peeking in from the edges.
Oh, interesting. So maybe Ferrer Miró is suggesting that art is starting to break free from those traditional boundaries, that it's starting to pique the interest of people outside those elite circles.
I think you're onto something. It's subtle, but it's there.
It's all about reading between the brushstrokes, right?
Exactly. And speaking of reading between the lines, let's talk about the shop itself. It's described as being in this kind of in-between state, actually.
In between? What do you mean?
So it's not entirely clear from the painting, but according to art historians, this shop was in the process of transforming. It used to be a bookstore and photo studio.
Oh, interesting. A bookstore A&D, a photo studio. That's an odd combination.
Right. But that's the thing. Back then, this mixing of commercial ventures wasn't that unusual. But anyway, at the time Ferrer Miró painted this, the shop was transitioning into a dedicated art gallery.
Ah, I see. And that's a pretty big deal in 1888.
Huge. Art galleries, as we know them, were still a pretty new concept. Before, if you wanted a painting, you usually commissioned it directly from an artist, or maybe knew someone who knew someone.
Yeah, it was all very hush-hush, behind closed doors kind of stuff.
Totally. So to have these public spaces popping up specifically dedicated to showing and selling art, that's a major shift.
It's like we're witnessing the birth of the art market as we know it.
100%. And it's not just about having a place to display the art. It also reflects this evolving understanding of art's value. It's not just about beauty anymore. It's also about commerce, investment, status.
Right. It becomes a commodity in a way that it wasn't before.
Exactly. Oh, and speaking of details, did you notice all the little things Ferrer Miró packed into this scene?
Oh, absolutely. It's those details that really suck you in. Like that guy walking away with a smaller painting tucked under his arm, like he just scored something special.
Yes. And the engravings for sale alongside the big painting, it's like a whole commentary on how art was being reproduced and consumed at the time.
It's like a visual catalog of all the different ways people were engaging with art. You've got the high-end original pieces, then the more affordable prints and engravings.
It's brilliant. Oh, and did you notice the streets? They're all wet and kind of glistening like it just rained.
I did, yeah. It gives the whole scene this really interesting atmosphere. A little bit mysterious, maybe?
And you know what I think is cool about that? Those wet streets could just as easily be in London or Paris or New York.
Oh, that's a good point. It's like Ferrer y Miró is placing this very Barcelona scene within a broader, more global context.
Which makes total sense, right? This is the year of the Barcelona Universal Exposition, a huge international event celebrating new ideas in technology and culture from all over the world.
It's like this painting, even down to those little details, captures that sense of expanding horizons, of a world on the brink of massive change.
Right. It's like a snapshot of a city and a world in transition.
And a society, too, grappling with how art fits into this rapidly changing landscape.
100%. You know, there's one more thing we have to talk about. It's kind of a mind-blowing detail that I didn't even notice at first.
Oh, do tell.
Okay, so you see the crowd gathered around that shop window, right? And they're all looking at a painting on display.
Yeah, the one that seems to be causing such a stir.
Right. Well, art historians are pretty sure that the artist in that painting, the one the crowd is so fascinated by, is meant to be Ferrer y Miró himself.
Whoa, wait, really? He put himself in the painting.
It gets even better. It's not just him. It's like he's painting the very scene we're looking at right now.
So it's like a painting within a painting, and he's commenting on his own creative process. That is some next-level meta stuff right there.
Right. It's like he's inviting us to think about not just the art itself, but the whole act of creation, display, and how people react to it.
It's almost like he's saying, hey, look at the power of art. Look how it draws people in, sparks their imagination, gets them talking.
Exactly. And I think that's a really powerful message even today,
Right.
because art still has that power, right? To make us stop, think, and see the world in new ways.
Absolutely. And maybe it also challenges us to think about what we would say about our own world. If we could paint a scene, what would it be? And what would we want people to take away from it?
Now, those are some questions worth pondering. And on that note, I think we've successfully navigated another deep dive.
Indeed, we have.
Until next time, folks, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep those imaginations firing. You never know what hidden depths you might uncover.